For over a century, the modern workplace was designed around a specific, rigid template. The industrial era built its systems for cogs in a machine, and then expected people to fit themselves into that metallic architecture. This system relied on the concept of the ideal worker, someone strangely detached from the physical realities of life. They were always available. They never got pregnant, never needed to heal, never menstruated, or carried domestic labor when they went home. Check this table comparing the default worker paradigm. On the left, the industrial labor contract demands uninterrupted availability and ignores human biology. On the right, the emerging model acknowledges that human bodies bleed, age, and give birth. That mismatch is the source of the friction we feel in our careers today. For decades, institutions traded a uniform policy as the definition of fairness. But ignoring biology and caregiving does not make a workplace more professional. It simply forces employees to hide physical reality and manage pain privately to stay employed. Equality is not achieved by forcing diverse human bodies into a single rigid mold. It happens when institutional structures become spacious enough to hold difference with dignity. That silence is breaking. Lawmakers around the world are pushing back against the old industrial model by passing a wave of specialized labor laws. This legislative activity is moving across three distinct frontiers: body-aware leave for physical health, care-sharing leave for fathers, and life crisis leave for traumatic events. But for anyone designing a company or choosing where to work, this raises a question. Are these specific new leave categories solving the root of modern burnout? Or are they just public relations band-aids covering up a system that is still broken? To find out, we have to look at how these policies actually function in practice. We are going to compare global models to see which ones successfully redistribute the burden of care and which ones merely offer a symbolic gesture. Let's start with body-aware leave. The core idea here is that menstruation and reproductive health are workplace realities, not embarrassing exceptions to be ignored. One approach is the administrative model. In Taiwan, female employees can request menstrual leave days that aren't counted against their standard sick leave, but they receive only half their regular wage for that time. In 2023, Spain took a different path by passing a medicalized model. Rather than cutting pay, Spain protects the workers' full wages, covering the cost through state-backed Social Security. Spain's system isn't a generic date off for everyone. It requires a doctor to diagnose a severe condition of secondary incapacitating menstruation before the social insurance kicks in. While this provides strong financial protection, tying the leave to a medical diagnosis introduces strict gatekeeping. It carries the risk of reinforcing employer biases against hiring women by framing female biology as a medical liability. Other regions are testing intermediate options. By late 2024, 20 provincial-level regions in China introduced pain leave policies requiring medical confirmation, though China still lacks a uniform national statute. These policies force a choice. An institution must decide whether to normalize biological realities at a financial cost to the worker, or protect their income at the risk of medical stigmatization in the hiring process. The second frontier is care-sharing leave. This challenges the assumption that earning naturally belongs to men, while caregiving naturally belongs to women. This bar chart reveals a massive structural gap in global parental leave. According to the International Labor Organization, 121 countries recognize a right to paternity leave. Yet mothers receive an average of 24.7 weeks of paid leave, while fathers receive only 2.2 weeks. Many countries rely on very short, immediate post-birth leaves. Indonesia provides 2 days of paid leave when a worker's wife gives birth, and Taiwan offers 5 days. These policies allow fathers to attend the medical event of childbirth, but they do nothing to redistribute the months of care that follow. Compare that to long-term, non-transferable father-specific leave. Spain offers 16 weeks of paid leave for each parent. South Korea and Japan offer aggregated entitlements that exceed a full year of father earmark time. Making this leave non-transferable forces active fatherhood. It transforms the role from a ceremonial title into actual emotional presence, daily responsibility, and active labor. We have to acknowledge the high upfront cost. When men actually take months off, it causes short-term operational disruption for employers, particularly in male-dominated industries. But the long-term return is that the systemic pregnancy penalty against hiring women is neutralized when men are equally expected to step away from the office to provide care. Achieving workplace fairness requires moving past short, symbolic paternity days and redesigning incentives so that care is no longer treated as a gendered burden. Career paths are rarely straight lines. Sudden life crises can leave a person's linear progress shattered, often forcing vulnerable employees out of the workforce entirely. Life crisis leave acknowledges that family life involves more than the arrival of children. It includes the onset of sudden trauma and fragility. We are seeing entirely new legal concepts emerge. New Zealand and Ireland now offer paid leave specifically for employees experiencing or at risk of domestic violence. There are also new protections for reproductive crises, like the UK's neonatal care leave, or New Zealand's specific bereavement leaves for miscarriage and stillbirth. The operational trade-off here is significant. Implementing crisis leave requires an employer to build privacy infrastructure and operate with high levels of trust. These policies effectively take the weight of societal safety nets and shift a portion of that responsibility onto private businesses. Crisis leave blurs the line between public work and private harm. It proves that a worker's vulnerability at home has undeniable consequences on their economic survival. Look at this quadrant chart. The vertical axis measures institutional effort. The horizontal tracks impact. Short symbolic leaves are low friction, but fail to shift workplace culture. However, high-effort structural interventions, like equal parental leave, do vastly more for real gender equity. The highest return for both businesses and society lies in these high-effort structural policies that actively neutralize the penalties associated with caregiving. Labor law is transitioning from protecting women as a vulnerable class to a model that restructures the workday around the shared duty of care. Economic systems are beginning to acknowledge that employees are also daughters, fathers, caregivers, and survivors. As work-life friction grows, it leaves us with a foundational question. Do we really need to keep inventing dozens of highly specific new leave categories to handle every human event? Or instead of policy band-aids, do we simply need a structural reduction in the demands placed on human beings while they are working? Success for modern institutions increasingly depends on their ability to accommodate both professional ambition and the practical requirements of care.